So if you've clicked on this video, it likely means one of two things. Either you are a friend or family member that is trying to support my channel, in which case thank you very much, or you're just interested in startups, early stage companies, and everything in between. Maybe you're a founder yourself, or maybe you are at a bit of a crossroads wondering whether you should try and get into the startup space and maybe start your own company or join an early stage one, or you could go down the corporate route and join a more established company and get all the benefits that come with that. There's really no one size fits all, and what works for me might not work for you, which might not work for someone else. But I've been at my startup for around 2.5 years now, so in this video I'm basically going to break down the good, the bad and the ugly, and what I would kind of weigh up if I was making the decision whether to go down the startup route or move into the kind of corporate space. So for a bit of context, I joined my startup Habits at the start of my final year of university, and at this point it was just the two co-founders that were working kind of nights and weekends to try and build out this idea of a platform to help people connect with financial advisors. I actually got introduced to the co-founder through my housemate at the time. He had started his own company a couple of years earlier and had worked with Jack. They'd stayed in touch, and when Jack went and started Habits, my housemate was like, well, Matt, this might be a really cool thing for you to join as maybe like an intern, just help them out, get some experience that you can actually just whack on your CV. I was doing maths with economics at university, so this idea of kind of a fintech was kind of up my street, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I actually then started as a research intern, and when I left uni, became the first full-time hire of the company, and have been working there for the last 2.5 years, and have effectively helped take it from this idea to what is now a venture-backed startup. So I want to emphasize that there has been a lot of luck involved in my experience that is not going to be replicable or the same for other people in the space. To start with, like I mentioned, I was lucky enough that I had a friend that effectively put this opportunity in my lap. So I didn't really have to go out and look for this. I just had to take it when it came my way, which is often not going to be the case. I think the other kind of luck that was involved was I was in a position where I could work for free. I didn't need anything from the company, which made it a real low risk situation for them, because I could come on. If I was shit, they were losing nothing other than the time they were spending kind of on me. I could then just provide sort of help with menial kind of tasks to start with, and it was great experience for me, but costing them nothing. I was lucky, I was in my final year of university, so I had a student loan. I was in a position that I was able to go, in this case, 9 months without taking a penny. But I'm aware that that's not going to be the same for a lot of people, and so that might impact whether or not startup life is going to be right for you. I think the other thing that's worth mentioning is that at this point of the company, it really wasn't required that I have any skills. So I had no what I would call like hard skills, in terms of skills that related to the actual day-to-day of the business. Things like CRMs or web design or sales or anything like that. I had no experience in any of that. So now that you know my situation, let's kind of get on to the point of this video, which is, would I recommend working for a startup? And the answer is yes, 100%, but only if you are in a certain set of requirements that is going to make it a good decision for you, because there are a lot of negatives. So to be honest, at a startup, there's a very high chance you're going to be working for free for at least a few months, because you're not going to have the resources as a company to be spending the amounts that a corporate environment might be able to spend. And so the salaries that you're going to be on is not going to be the same as what you would get in the corporate world. I think really when you're working at a startup, you have to go in with the mentality of you are doing this for the long term. The kind of thing that goes along with that though, and another reason that this is not going to be for everyone, is there is no guarantee at all of success. In fact, it's almost the opposite. So 90% of startups will fail, and of that, 70% will fail in the first 5 years. So the chances are, if you go and start a business or you join this early stage startup, it's not going to work out. So you've got to go in kind of prepared to work for free, work long hours, and you've got to be sort of willing and able to go and do that with no guarantees at all of it paying off. You're also just not going to get a lot of the benefits that come with working in a corporate lifestyle. So For example, like even a pension and things as simple as that. Like at a startup, likelihood is you may not get that sort of stuff. Things like a company car or travel expenses, all of that sort of stuff, you're not likely to be getting. One of the biggest factors, which isn't likely to be mentioned as much, is the work-life balance and the risk of kind of burning out. Because the thing with a startup is there's no off switch, in the sense that there's always something else you can be doing to improve the company or to give yourself that extra chance of making it to the end of next year. And it's really tough to know when you need to kind of close the laptop, especially if you're in an environment where you are working completely remotely, which is another pretty significant, I would argue, negative of, I guess this is true for anything, but remote working, which I would say is probably more common at a startup when there is so few of you. You can be spread all over the world. I mean, in our situation, I'm the only one here in the UK. I've met my colleagues in person once or twice. And so you don't get that kind of social interaction. You don't go out for work drinks on a Thursday. This is not necessarily true for every startup. If you were, let's say you were all in London, you had an office there, and that would be a completely different thing. But I would say that's something I would be very kind of aware of going into an idea of 100% remote work, because that's something that I personally am struggling with at the moment. So with all of these kind of negatives, it would be a fair question to say, well, Matt, why are you working for a startup then? Why would anyone want to go and work for a startup? And I think for me, if you're able to kind of deal with those negatives, the benefits of working for a startup make it entirely worth it. So I think that the first thing, particularly if you are young and you don't really know what you want to do, you don't have that kind of long-term set out plan, working for a startup, at least for me, has exposed me to so many different aspects. Things like marketing, sales, customer success, development. I'm by no means a developer, but I would now feel extremely comfortable throwing together a website in a few days to be able to kind of take something from nothing, put a design together, build it out and publish it, which going into it, I would have no clue. And that is not really anything I'd ever thought I would want to do, but something I think would be extremely useful. Let's say if I did want to go and start my own thing. And it also teaches you one of what I would argue is the most important skills you can have in really any environment, whether that's corporate, startup, whatever it might be. And that is the ability to go and just figure something out. Like in a startup specifically, at least my experience, there hasn't been someone there that I can go to and be like, how do I do this? Because no one knows. Like none of us when we started had ever put together a website. And so that was something that our CEO was like, Matt, can you go and just take care of it? And I was like, okay, sure. And that was something I had to figure out. And don't get me wrong, the first few that I put together were shit. Like the first few, if you look at the first few websites that Habits had, they were awful. This also just, for me, makes it significantly less boring. So every day that I work is different. I'm never kind of thinking, oh, I've got this and this, the same as yesterday, the same as the day before. Like you are constantly trying to solve a different problem, because as soon as you solve one, another one comes up. So effectively, like every day then is different. And for me, that's something I've always enjoyed. Like I've always loved puzzles and solving stuff, like logic things, and so I really enjoy that sort of stuff. You're also building something completely from scratch, which is something I've always really liked. There's something huge to be said for the idea of like working to live. Like if you've got stuff you like doing and you can kind of work the amount of hours you need to do to be able to go and do the stuff you like, I think that's great, because you only live once, and I completely get that. I think for me, I actually really enjoy what I do. Like I don't normally feel like, got to go and work today. I don't really get that, because I genuinely enjoy building this up. And so I think it's likely to lead to some problems at some point, where, I mean, there's the idea of like, when's enough? Like that work-life balance, it is particularly hard, I think, to come by, and knowing when to switch off is pretty constant. And so you've got to be quite firm in putting your foot down and saying, I am off the clock at this point. And I think like the biggest thing, the most obvious thing, and why the vast majority of people that go into startups or start their own thing do it often, is the potential. Like the potential upside of all of this could be life-changing. It's the sort of thing where if you start your own company, or you're an early stage employee or something like that, there's a very good chance you might have equity compensation to really make up for the lack of just normal salary. And that equity compensation, like we kind of spoke about, 9 times out of 10 is not really going to amount to much. But if you can be that one that it does amount to a lot, then you are living. And I think for me, going in with the mentality that this could all amount to nothing, I look at what I have done and what I'm doing at Habits as I'm getting the experience. Because for me, at some point, I wouldn't be surprised if I want to go and start my own company or create a product or something. And I feel like everything I'm doing today is kind of laying the foundations for that sort of thing. I'm getting an insight into what is needed to run a company without me personally having to do it. There's not a lot that's spoken about being an early stage employee versus like a founder. I think there is a lot of content out there from founders, because it's the founders that tend to make content and put stuff out there. I don't tend to see much about like the early stage employees, but there is definitely something to be said about being able to experience that startup from pretty close to day one without the whole weight of it all being on your shoulders. And that's something that I enjoy a lot. There are definitely parts that is frustrating, like you don't have the final say. You are still answering to someone else. You are taking that kind of fraction of the potential reward, but also I would say the fraction of the responsibility and the risk. Like I haven't had to put any of my personal money into this, whereas the founders bootstrapped and were kind of paying out of their pocket for certain things. And so definitely pros and cons to being a founder versus being an early stage employee, and again compared to like the corporate lifestyle. To summarize then, like, would I recommend someone work for a startup? And my answer is 100% yes, if you know what you're getting into and you are kind of comfortable with the downsides of it. Because for me, the upsides far outweigh the negatives. I'd be really intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. Like, is working for a startup something you're considering? Do you work for a corporate environment? In which case, like, do you think I've got anything wrong? Is there anything that you're like, Matt, you said this, but that's not what I've experienced at all? Like, please do let me know. Or if you want to jump on a call and chat, like, more than happy to. I'm happy to meet with anyone, like anyone that wants to chat about startups, companies, all of that sort of stuff. Please do reach out and let me know. But hopefully this video was interesting and you got some kind of benefits from it. If you did, please do me a favor and just drop the video a like, maybe comment what you would like to see next. And if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe, because these videos are coming out every Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.